Hey y'all, it's Megan. Welcome back to the channel. Glad y'all are here today. Come spend the day with me. It's gonna be a busy one. Last night we came out here and we just cleaned out the sweet corn, picked all through it. So I gotta get that shucked and canned today. I'm also gonna be making some homemade chili and I really wanna show y'all how I do that. If I'd have known as simple as that was, I'd have been making homemade chili all along, y'all. I just recently figured out how to do it. But anyways, hope y'all enjoy the video. So like I said, we picked this last night, so I've got an extra refrigerator in my outbuilding out here, and just stuck it in there overnight. So at least one of the steps would be done, because canning corn is it's a process. Make sure if you're gonna be canning a lot of corn that you give yourself most of the day anyway.
And give your chickens the caterpillars.
Yeah, give your chickens the caterpillars.
But the chickens will love that.
The corn is sweating already where it's been in the refrigerator, but where I'm canning this, I ain't worried about it sweating. But now if I was freezing it, I wouldn't want it getting wet from the sweat.
Wet from the sweat.
So I like to pick it and freeze it all in the same day.
But when you do this, oh, Mama.
What?
Have to take Maggie's and
You
clean them up.
when you can it, Mama, you don't take anything.
So being able to put it in a refrigerator like that is another good thing about Honey Select, is it doesn't get starchy like some of the other types of corn does. It'll hold its sweetness for quite a while. I've had this laying, we've what, 3 or 4 days before in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And it still be just as good then as the day you picked it.
That's probably as long as I would leave it.
No, I wouldn't leave it much longer than that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it'll do just fine. It's got a long shelf life. I guess that's a good word to put it.
Oh, that ain't no counting. Look, it's one of the ones with the long leaves.
What did it look like? Oh, it's dried up.
Yep. Ain't that something?
Well, I knew there was some in there that didn't feel like they were any good, but I picked them anyway.
Well, yeah, because what if you hadn't picked them and they'd have been good?
Right. We still got a few ears left out there that probably give us something to eat on for the next few days, but for the most part, this is about all of it.
There's a big old juicy caterpillar for the chickens.
So it'll be interesting to see when you get this done. It's already give us, this little patch has give us how many ears so far that you froze?
Froze 15 bags, 6 ears a bag. So that's 7 dozen, 7.5 dozen.
Okay, so 7.5 dozen. There's quite a bit here, so it'll be interesting to see. Because
Well,
I
not
know,
counting what we've eaten.
and yeah, and that's not counting at all what we've eaten. But I know on camera that corn patch may look bigger than what it really is. I wish I knew the exact measurements. I think that garden's about 30 foot long. What is it? Was it rotten?
No, you know, the gooey stuff on the top of the worm, when I broke it off, it landed on my toes.
Oh.
Don't worry, Mom, that sometimes happens to me.
Does that happen to you too?
Sometimes.
But yeah, I want to say that garden's about 30 foot long, and then we got 5 rows of it, which really only 4 rows really made good because the cows eat on the other row. But I did get some off of this last row over here.
Daddy, how long does it take those cows to know these?
They're still eating their feed right now. They'll be up here in a minute.
There's another big old worm.
The chickens love that.
Yes, they really do.
Look at Mother already have love it.
All right. Them worms don't stand a chance in there with them chickens. Good enough for you, Mr. Worm.
I know.
All right.
Well, we
got several. We filled up that pan.
Yep.
I think that's something we should do one day. We need to show exactly how big that garden is. Because I don't even know. I really don't.
You don't remember how big that fence is?
It's 30 something by 30 something, I think, but I'm not sure. It may be 50 foot. I can't remember. You know, I ain't good with numbers like that. It's hard for me to keep up with numbers.
Well, it puts off.
It does. So it'd be interesting to show just how much can be grown in that. Because like I said, I've noticed even myself on camera, it looks bigger than it really is.
Yeah.
Which I think everything's that way. I think everything looks bigger on camera.
Yeah.
You take a big grass field, it looks like it's huge on the camera.
Yeah, and it ain't as big as it appears.
Yeah. Maggie, you want me to break the end out of that? You got it. Oh, you getting a worm.
Well, now comes the fun part.
Cutting it off the cob? Yeah.
I've got that thing, and I don't know if I have it, if I don't have it adjusted right or what, but it like, I don't know, it like cuts it off. It like cuts it in half, whereas if you cut it with a knife, you can actually cut it against the cob.
Cut it all off.
I don't know how to explain it.
That thing's full.
That thing does make life a whole lot easier.
Does it? Maybe we can look. I might be able to adjust on something.
Okay.
Let Maggie get her last one done. She always has to shut the last one. No matter if we're coming out here and just grabbing a couple to eat for supper or doing a bunch.
Well, she likes to feed that goat.
We were just talking about it, I think. So we had 7.5 dozen that we froze. I have no idea how many ears is there.
That's more than what we froze.
Yeah, that's definitely more than we froze. Mm-hmm. And then we've probably eat a good 2 dozen, maybe more, out of this patch so far. And there's still ears in there that ain't quite ready yet. However, as I said in that other video of us doing corn, those ears are not going to be near as pretty as the first ears that come off.
Well, we saw that even with that right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of misshapen stuff and ears that ain't filled out and all that. But there's still quite a bit in there. I'd say there's probably another 2 dozen in there that ain't been picked. That, you know, taking for granted that in amongst that 2 dozen, there may be only a dozen of it that's actually good and
I would
worth
say,
eating.
like, rough guesstimate, maybe 20 dozen off that patch.
Off of it altogether? Mm-hmm. That's probably a good guess, too.
20 times 12 is 240, so...
240 ears. Mm-hmm. That's pretty good for 5 little rows. And like y'all have heard us say before, where that farther end over there stays shady longer.
It don't much count.
It don't much count because most of the ears that's left are over on that end. They hadn't developed yet. And I'll tell you right now that just from years past experience that a lot of those ears will probably get thrown away. So if we'd have had that same size patch out in the open full sun, it would have been more than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I better get to work. I'm wasting daylight.
Wasting daylight.
So this is the time-consuming part, cutting it off the cob. So I like to get me something kind of flat, but it's got sides on it. So not a plate, because your corn will be shooting like all over the place. But I like to have sides, so I use my little frying pan here, and then I just pour it into a regular bowl. Once my bowl gets full, I'll start filling up my jars. I do pints for my corn. I've done quarts in the past too. But we don't seem to eat that much at one time, and then it just kind of gets left over, and nothing wrong with leftovers. We eat a lot of leftovers, but I'd rather just do several pints and have several meals than quarts and part of it get pushed to the back of the refrigerator and forget about it. Happens to the best of us. And I get kind of close to the cob. If it looks like there's still quite a bit of milk left in the cob, I'll scrape the cob. And I reckon this is what you would call like whole kernel corn. And I make cream corn, but I make it after I open the jar. Yeah, see, it ain't no milk left. And I've got 2 pressure canners. I'm just scraping the silks off with my little silk brush. You can find those at Hoss Tools. I've had this one for a couple of years. Works like a charm getting some of those extra silks off. A lot of people say Honey Select's not a great canning corn, but it does pretty good for us. Is your grill still down in the creek?
No, it's down to shop.
I was gonna say you may have to cook your pot of corn on the grill.
It is down at the shop. Yeah, I hope mine across the new corn makes. That'll be nice. Which reminds me, I gotta take that cover down there and put it on that tiller. So I'm just gonna leave the tiller sitting down there. There it is.
Alright, so I already got 1 canner full of corn going. My pressure canner holds 10 pints. So this will be the next 10 pints to go in pressure canner number 2. So one thing I love about my gas stove, for those of you that have been around for a very long time, I used to can on a glass top and I would only do 1 canner at a time because I was scared it would bust. But I love being able to run 2 at one time. Especially doing something, you know, big batches like this right here. So I'm gonna say, just looking at what we've got, we're probably gonna have close to 30 pints, which that'll be good, won't it?
Mm-hmm. Especially if we get some off of the serendipity we got planted.
No, that's just off of this.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying it'll be plenty.
Yeah. So corn, I don't fill it plumb up to the top. I fill it up to about like that. Canning corn is a messy job.
Ain't that the truth?
We're just messy cooks. So of course, like with anything else, you add your 1/2 teaspoon of salt.
What kind of salt are you using?
This is Redmond's real salt. Any kind of salt besides iodized salt. So you can use plain salt, you can use canning salt. You just don't want any with the iodine in it. It'll change your color of your stuff. That's what they say. I've never done it, so. There we go. I'll wipe my rims off. Just make sure it ain't no silk stuck to those rims. right, so now I'm gonna put hot water in each jar. Something about corn, of course there's a lot of little air pockets in there, so you want your water kind of slow, whether you're using sink water or pouring boiling water. You just want to do it kind of slow, because you'll see how them air bubbles come up through it, so just kind of. And I just fill it up to around that first ring. I don't get too technical with it.
And we do have hotter than normal water too.
Yeah, that's true. We can see the steam coming off
Yeah,
of it.
it's hot. Our water heater's turned up.
You gotta record all this.
How tight you putting those?
I just put them on just tight enough till the jar starts turning itself. Because if you put them too tight, it'll make your lids buckle. Believe me, I've done it.
Make them buckle.
Mm-hmm. Because the pressure can't get out.
Really?
Yeah. You gotta give it just enough that the air and the pressure can get out if it needs to. And if you don't, they will buckle right up.
How about that?
Told you. I've done it, unfortunately. Alright, we're gonna get these in the canner. Make sure you've got a sufficient amount of what your canner calls for. Sometimes you can get by with having less than it calls for, but where these are gonna have to can for so long, you will run your canner dry. I've done that too. And you don't want to do that. Alright. Cut my heat on and let it start heating up. I'm gonna pull out my handy dandy ball book of preserving. Y'all have seen this in many of my videos. So pint jars are for 55 minutes. So I'm just gonna tell y'all, corn is something, especially these newer varieties of sweet corn like this Honey Select is, what do they call it? A triple sweet?
Something like that.
There's a lot of sugar in there. So what you can run into is your sugar starts to caramelize and make your corn brown. So I may or may not cut that down just a tad. But the book says 55 minutes. So for lunch today, we're gonna have the ultimate summer meal. Fresh corn on the cob, we just picked, and a tomato sandwich. It's my first one of the summer. I don't buy tomatoes, y'all, so I like live on tomato sandwiches once the tomatoes start coming in. So I'm going to show y'all how to make one. You start off, you don't have to have toasted bread. Depends on the mood I'm in, whether I toast my bread or not. Like it pretty good toasted. And then of course you got to have Duke's mayonnaise to have the best tomato sandwich. And you just put you a pile of that on there. I don't usually like a ton of mayonnaise except on a tomato sandwich. And some people peel their tomatoes, some people don't. Megan is one that don't. So I like to cut them. When you're making a tomato sandwich, don't cut it from the top where that core is. Come down here to the bottom. Look yonder. My mouth's watering already.
Juicy.
And then you just pile you up as much tomato as you want on there. Do one more piece.
I've got plenty, ain't you?
Well, yeah, you gotta have enough to taste. All right. Then you finish it off with just a little bit of salt and pepper. You gotta have the salt and pepper. That's what makes it good. Y'all know I like pepper, so. Now, that right there is better than the best steak you will get anywhere. I'm gonna get me a ear of corn here. Yeah, buddy. That is what I'm talking about.
Summertime meal.
That's right. Well, my second canner full is finished up. You can see here this beautiful canned corn. So we're gonna get this out too. I think canned corn is so pretty. Now right there, I've got 20 delicious side items that we will enjoy during the winter. And like I said, it's pretty to look at. Alright, so now let's get this hot dog chili made. I don't think I made myself clear at the beginning of the video. This is like hot dog chili that you put on hot dogs, because here in North Carolina we eat our hot dogs all the way, which is slaw, chili, mustard, and onions. So to make our homemade hot dog chili, I've got my little lard heating up in my pan here just a little bit, and I'm going to mince up an onion. So my crowd here, they don't care for big chunks of onions, so I like to mince it up pretty small, and I'm going to show y'all how to do that. Now I learned this trick several years ago. So got my onion sitting on a little flat spot there, and we're gonna cut it, but we're not gonna go all the way through. Now a lot of y'all probably already know this, but there was one time I didn't know it. So I'm gonna go all the way across like that. Alright, see there? Now we're gonna cut the opposite way. The skin's trying to come off. So we're gonna do the same thing, but we're not gonna go all the way through. And of course, as I get over here close to the end, it gets kind of tough. So now, see that we got there? We're just gonna take it and we're just gonna cut straight down. Perfect little tiny pieces of onion. I'm not getting fresh peppers just yet, so for this today, I'm gonna be using some of my frozen ones. You just want a handful of chopped peppers, and then you can put as much or as little onion as you want in there, but that was just a really small little onion. And we're gonna let that start softening up some. That's getting soft, so let's add about a pound of ground beef. add our seasoning.
Mama, is this ready?
We're gonna add roughly a tablespoon of chili powder. Now you can add more than that if you really like chili powder. Chili powder is a little strong to me, so I don't add a ton. We're gonna do a sprinkle of cumin. A good sprinkle of garlic powder. Paprika. And a little turmeric. We're just gonna let that cook for a little bit. My beef is really good and brown. I've got it chopped up pretty good. Make sure there's no big chunks of ground beef in there. So now, we're gonna add a pint of tomato soup. So, while I was experimenting over time making homemade chili, a lot of it calls for tomato paste and tomato juice and different things like that. Well, I decided to try tomato soup one day in it, and oh my gosh, it was so good. So I'm not sure if condensed soup would do the same thing. I don't know why it wouldn't, like Campbell soup or whatever, because this is my homemade tomato soup. But put that in there. I'm gonna add about a cup of water, and we're gonna add about a half a cup of ketchup. But I think the tomato soup makes it so good because, you know, you've got all those seasonings in tomato soup. I don't know. I really like the taste that it gives it. So we're just going to get all that mixed together. Now you're going to salt and pepper this to taste. It ain't gonna need a ton of salt because that tomato soup's got salt in it. So, shouldn't need a lot. And then I'm gonna sprinkle about a tablespoon of sugar over it. You can do one of two things here. You can let this simmer for at least 30 minutes, or you can put it in a crock pot. So what I'm going to do today, since it's still going to be a while before we eat it, I'm going to put it in my little tiny crock pot. I'll show y'all that in a minute. And just put it on low and let it go till we're ready to eat it. Now, of course, if it's too thin, just let it cook longer, because it's going to thin due to evaporation the longer you let it simmer. If it's too thick, add you a little more water. Very simple. And it is really good. And y'all don't forget, you know, when I give you recipes on here, be sure to check the description. I try my best to remember to write the full recipes out down there, because I know sometimes my directions are not the easiest to follow. Alright, I'm going to put this in my little crock pot. And usually this amount fits good in my little crock pot like this. So I will just scoop it right on in there. So I'll let that simmer on low for about 3 or 4 hours, something like that. And it'll be good and ready by the time we're ready to eat it. So, guys, I guess that's about all I've got for y'all today. My corn will sit here till tomorrow. I like to let it sit at least 24 hours before I take the rings off and put it up and check all my seals and all that good stuff. So that'll sit here till the end, and I'll get it put up. We'll enjoy this hot dog chili on some hot dogs tonight for supper. And anyways, till we see y'all in the next one, y'all have a good one.